lawful stoning. When I say stoning wasn't practiced, was that according to Torah or not? When Stephen was stoned,
no.
Was that a violation of Torah?
Yes.
Or was that sanctioned by Torah? Talk to me, don't shake, talk to me. When, no, you asked the question, so you're going to answer it. When Stephen was stoned, was that a violation of Torah or a practice of Torah?
Why was it done?
Sorry?
Why was it done? According to their...
Because he was an innocent man. He had done nothing wrong. He was speaking by the Ruach HaKodesh. He was challenging the Sanhedrin. He said, your fathers always disobeyed the Ruach HaKodesh. In other words, what was his crime to make it legal? His crime was preaching Yeshua. So again, stoning was not supposed to happen. When Stephen was stoned, that stoning was not supposed to happen. More than that, and I'll answer your question even better in a minute. You follow what I'm saying? So that was a case where stoning should have never taken place. Stoning was designed so that stoning, Israel would see it one time and never want to engage in that. Now, don't tell me about the woman with the adultery. I don't want to get in there. All right? I'm talking about a child being stoned for rebellion. Don't take me to adultery. Don't take me to John chapter 8. Not interested. I'm talking about a child with a parent. A child with a parent. Let's not go into the marriage thing right now. That's it. Let's stay on topic. Let's stay on topic.
Exactly.
So the whole point behind stoning was that there would be no more stoning. Now, if that's not mercy, then pray tell me what is. Yahweh wanted to eliminate rebellion in Israel as well as the practice of stoning. Once a boy was made an example for all Israel to shema and to what? Fear, hear and what? Fear. The penalty for rebelling against the Israelite parents were submitted to Torah. The penalty would scare off the rebellion. Once a male was made an example of Yahweh's mercy, Yahweh would no longer require massive stoning for other rebellious children. That's why history records that stoning was not practiced in Israel, nor is it practiced today. Now don't miss that again. I'm going to say that again. Stoning, you could look in Josephus, you could look in the Talmud. Stoning was not practiced in Israel for a rebellious child. Because someone got stoned, and that was the end of the rebellious children. So did Yahweh know what he was doing, Cecile?
Yep.
Right? Did Yahweh know what he was doing?
Yes, he did.
He found one rebellious child, he removed the evil from Israel, and that was the end of the need for stoning. It only takes one example to scare everyone else away. Also notice how Yahweh's Rachamim not only prevents massive impulsive stoning done in anger and retribution by the parents, but let me ask you a question. You ready? Where are the girls? Where are the girls and the women? How come this passage doesn't talk about rebellious daughters? Hello? Why does this passage in today's Parsha not have a penalty for rebellious daughters? Darryl, you mean girls weren't rebellious?
Yeah.
My daughter was rebellious at times. I didn't stone her. Can we say that's Yahweh's Rachamim, right? Yes. We can say that's Yahweh's Rachamim. Now remember, everything is text within context. If Yahweh exempted the daughters of rebellion from being stoned, was that Rachamim? That was Rachamim. But how did Yahweh straighten out these daughters who wouldn't listen to their mother and father? The son would be stoned, so Israel would see, hear, and fear, and that was the end of public stoning of rebellious sons. But what about a rebellious daughter? Bruno, what about a rebellious daughter? How come women and daughter are not mentioned here as being rebellious to their parents? What was their penalty? None. That's mercy. Why did Yahweh leave out women and daughters? He had a better plan. Get them married in a patriarchal marriage and let the priest of the home, let the husband straighten them out.
That's what I thought.
Wow. In other words, the parents couldn't handle the girl. Let the husband come in. You want another wife? Go ahead. Do you? You take care of it. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You can't. And notice how it all flows in context, right? It all flows in the context of today's parsha of the Torah. Wow. I told you to prepare today. I told you. In other words, the boy was made an example. That would be the end of stoning. There's no mention of rebellious girls taken out to the elders to be stoned. That's Yahweh's mercy. Yahweh wanted women to be secure in a godly family, whether it was monogamy or patriarchal, whereby the women would be nurtured and not stoned in public humiliation. Come on now. So marriage, including patriarchal marriage, was the way designed by Yahweh to protect women so they would not have to be publicly humiliated and stoned when they rebelled against their parents. Now that doesn't mean a 9-year-old girl should be married. Don't miss that. I didn't say the 9-year-old girl should be married or an 8-year-old girl should be married. I didn't say that. A girl who continued in a pattern of rebellion. If it continues in a pattern, it requires what? Many years. You understand? Don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about a 6-year-old girl who rebelled and then they sent the 6-year-old girl to get married. No. I'm talking about that pattern. Remember? That continual pattern of abuse. Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
Now, I'm going to say something. Now, if mankind had perverted the allowance of stoning, along with the allowance of patriarchal marriage, how many other things has mankind perverted that Yahweh instructs? The sin of the evil lies in mankind's heart, not in the revealed love and rachamim of Yahweh's words. If one is stoned for all Israel, then all others would not have to be stoned. Friends, that is rachamim. If one boy was stoned, so all the other rebellious boys in Israel wouldn't have to be stoned. Friends, that is rachamim. Can I hear a good amen? So Bruno, if one boy was stoned publicly so all Israel would hear and Shema, then your sons would never think about talking back to you and rebelling. And the old enough daughters who continued and continued and continued, and now they were at the age of puberty, rather than being stoned and be made in public humiliation, they'd be shipped off to a man to be a first, second, or third wife. You see the ways of Yahweh? If we submit to the ways of Yahweh, but if we call that evil, you know what we're saying to Yahweh? You should have stoned the girls. We don't want her winding up as a third or fourth wife. She'll be a sex slave. That'll be marital abuse. Rabbi Moshe is wrong. And so what? So in other words, you would rather the girl who has reached puberty and has been in a pattern of rebellion for all these men, you would rather have her be stoned, Darryl, rather than find a godly man in a monogamous or patriarchal marriage? All the ways of Yahweh, past finding out. The wisdom and the ways of Yahweh are past finding out. But I'm not done. Here we have a prophecy of the coming of Mashiach. How many boys in Israel were stoned for stoning to stop as a historic practice? How many?
1.
How many?
1.
How about Yeshua? Why is stoning for today, yet none of us get stoned when we sin? Is stoning for today? Rachel, if I say your name, everybody will know you're back. Should I say your name?
You just did.
I just did? Ay, ay, ay! Here's the principle. One was stoned, so the others wouldn't have to be stoned. Ready? Yeshua was stoned.
We got the shock off at the conference.
Yeah, that's what we got at the conference.
I would have been shocked.
But I thought he was crucified. Yes. But he was also stoned. Brothers and sisters, listen.